connection is losing its shine. Scandal plagued TV shows, fragmented sports experiences, and recycled movies ideas. This is the beginning of the end. Here in America, we are kind of finding that out right just now. Today, we are going to be talking about here on the We The Patriots podcast, all about the scandal-ridden TV show era on top of sports that in some cases you can't even really watch, and movies that, well, it's just recycled garbage. I'm your host, Sal Assante, and today, hoping to have a little bit of fun with it. Let's get right into business. So, today, I want to give a couple of shout outs to start out the day before I even get into the business of doing our show. Number one, my Coldwell Chiefs 12U team. I know that you bums all found my show, and although you probably shouldn't be watching, well, I can't really stop you, so hope you're enjoying it. You guys better be liking this up, and yeah, don't tell your parents, I guess. Probably too late for that. Second of all, big shout out to all of my listeners here. We're getting close to 100 subs. I think we're 2 or 3 away on YouTube from 100 subs on the podcast. I cannot be more grateful. I can't wait to see which one of you is going to be the 100th. And yeah, go smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends, get the show out there if you enjoy it, even if you don't, if you hate it, you want to hate on me, I'll take all the engagement that we can get. Excuse me. So with that out of the way, again, just want to thank you guys. But today we're going to be talking about some pretty interesting topics. Pretty recently, I did a show that was all about the unfortunate massive amount of pedophilia that goes around in our country, and it has now slid into another realm of the pop culture, and that is the very popular show Impractical Jokers. If you are one of the unfortunate souls who does not know Impractical Jokers from its start in, I believe, 2011, well, this has just been honestly, one of the greatest created shows, especially their first probably 100, 150 episodes, where it was the entirety of the group that included Joe Gatto, James Murray, Brian Quinn, and Sal Volcano. Shout out to Sal for the namesake here. Yeah, honestly, just an incredible show. And that is not taking away from what these people have been alleged to do. I'm just saying the show is really phenomenal. It'll make almost anybody laugh. And yeah, so let's get right into it because it's pretty disturbing. There are some recent allegations that have come out against 2 of the 4 hosts. Now, does that mean that the other 2 are not necessarily involved in some way, or could they have their own issues? 100% possible, but things that are being alleged right now are against 2 of the hosts, and those hosts are Joe Gatto and James Murray. So let's talk about it. Joe, recently, this is in March of 2025, faced sexual assault and harassment claims from 2 different women, one being a fan that alleged an incident in 2023, and another one being a former employee citing his manipulative behavior on set and translating to after work stuff, all that type of things. Now, here's the interesting part. Gatto denied the claims outright, but then he goes on to cancel his live comedy show, and he's actually submitted himself to treatment, a rehab of some sort, and well, I don't know if you guys feel the same way as I do, but if you're going to submit yourself to treatment, sex rehabilitation, all this crap, you're probably guilty of something. So now the charges against Joe, one, I believe, I could be wrong here. You can correct me here in the comments because I believe that one of the incidents actually involved a minor sending illicit text messages back and forth between a minor when the man is obviously well into his 40s or 50s in age. And yeah, I mean, it's just kind of that continuation of, unfortunately, the entertainment industry being filled with these types of people that really prey on unfortunate souls and people who really cannot stand up for themselves. Online harassment, of course, the online world being created in the last 25, 30 years or so, has obviously jumped. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that is kind of unavoidable with this, as I talked about in our extensive show about pedophilia. It's one of those things that it really opens up the Pandora's box a little bit about the possibilities for people that are of this mindset, that they want to take the power away and the agency away from people that are underage or cannot defend themselves. Maybe they're drug addicts, a whole plethora of possibilities here. But the unfortunate part, of course, being that this is stemming again from an entertainment industry, as we've seen countless number of actors directors that have taken advantage. You think about the recent Nickelodeon incident that happened with, I believe it was Dan Schneider, and the things that were going on there behind the scenes of Drake and Josh, iCarly, those type of shows. It's just unfortunate. Again, it's kind of just a continuation of, unfortunately, the same crap that keeps coming up again and again about these powerful individuals that take advantage of the power that they've been given for some really terrible things. Now, to move on to the second one, the second allegation, second alleged host, James Murray from the show Impractical Jokers. I want to just caveat with this. This is not me defending the actions that may or may not have happened, because this is all alleged. But this is me going out on a limb and saying that there is a good possibility that these are faked. Now, let me explain why. First, you have to go back to the Me Too movement, the Me Too era. What this was, I want to say it goes back to before COVID, probably the time frame of about 2017 or so up to about 2020, maybe stemmed into the 20s, and it still definitely has rumblings and tides still existing today, for sure. That's without a doubt. But the Me Too era existing and what that was. So Me Too was that probably doesn't sound literate at all, but what Me Too was is a movement that was all about women and trying to take their power back. In a lot of instances, these were women that were abused, sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, possibly raped, and all trying to get their agency back, claiming the Me Too, the things that, a lot of women stay silent about or don't come up about. You remember this was during the first term under President Trump. I believe it was probably 2018 or 2019 when Justice Kavanaugh was up for his hearing in front of the Senate, and you had, I believe it was Christine Blasey Ford, I could be messing up the name there, came out and basically alleged an assault that occurred decades ago. This was the kind of the high point before everything went down for Me Too, because, in my opinion, what I think everybody started to see was that there were some allegations being made that were not very well founded, that there were many instances of these allegations coming out just for an opportunity to get into the limelight for some of these women or men, mostly women, and also some opportunities for profiting off of their experience. Hence, someone writing a book about President Trump groping them in the Waldorf Astoria in like the 1970s or 80s and not having any evidence. And again, I think that was kind of the downfall after what happened to Justice Kavanaugh, whether it happened or not, the way that it went about happening, the proof or lack of proof thereof, was really kind of the downfall of the Me Too movement because, well, as a lot of women stated, the failure to provide good evidence kind of gave the movement of Me Too a bad rep. And this is where I kind of want to bring in the fact that it's very possible that this is a Me Too-esque hit on Mr. James Murray. Now, here are the claims. I read a little bit more into James Murray's case than I did into Joe Gatto's, so I have a little bit of information off the top of my head. What was alleged was this is all under a Reddit post, and as I hope most of you guys who are watching this show, guys and gals, if you're watching this show, you're probably well aware of Reddit. If you were able to find my podcast, you probably know of the existence of Reddit. I'm of the belief that Reddit, in some cases, and a lot of times when it's really helpful, is when you're looking for stuff on like video games and stuff, but when you're looking for cultural phenomenons and looking for talking spaces, generally speaking, it is a cesspool. And by cesspool, I mean you are going to find some of the most degraded human beings, people who do not have any morals, kind of coming out of the woodworks in order to either slam down a fellow person on Reddit or make allegations that are unfounded against people in real life. Now, what happened on Reddit is that somebody posted very, very shortly after the allegations against Joe that Mr. As he's called on the show, James Murray, had illicit text messages with an underage girl. The underage girl claiming to be the person on Reddit. So this was one and of the same person. Posted some screenshots, and as a part of these screenshots, and you can go look up the story. I'll see if I can find it. I'll post it in the link in the description here, so you guys can all get a look. But the allegation essentially was that there was some illicit text messages sent, that there was meetings involved, that she was underage, and the part that kind of gets me is in the long form part where it's not posting text messages. This is just the alleged assaultee making their claim of what happened. They said, "This is what I'm comfortable sharing right now," and they go on to basically just go and slander the person of James Murray. Now, the post was deleted, I want to say 2 to 3 hours after posting. The allegations just don't seem to be well founded in the same light that the allegations against Joe Gatto seem to be founded. It's in that kind of light that I think that, well, it's just not very substantiated. Again, we kind of live, well, we do live, hopefully we still live, in a country where you are considered innocent until proven guilty. And I pray that that's still the case. And if it is the case, although people may make some assumptions here on the behalf of Joe Gatto or James Murray, I think that it's very important that we assume these gentlemen to be innocent both ways before actually convicting this man in the public court of opinion. Now, court of public opinion is the way that should have went. My apologies. Either way, uh, yeah, I think it's very important for us as well. Us being really me. You guys can make the judgments all that you want, but I think it's very important for us people in the media, as I'll call myself, which is ridiculous to say, but people trying to make inferences and explain our views to people. That to me, I think it's two very different levels of allegations that we're talking about between the two hosts of the Impractical Jokers. But with all of that said, it really does the rest of the show, and I cannot see that the show continues to go on much further past these allegations. It's unfortunate, but without even having Joe as a part of the show anymore, as he hasn't been for the last couple of years, I just don't really see a future. It's unfortunate again, but it kind of is what it is. When you have some alleged low life human beings, as we're seeing right now, this is kind of what you're going to get. And yeah, again, I just kind of look at it at the TV industry as a whole, that it is damning, very damning to kind of say these are the type of individuals that run TV shows. Now, moving on from the TV industry, I want to talk a little bit and get away from the pedophilia part because it's kind of a little redundant. Again, I did a whole show about it. I'll link it in the description. Getting away from the pedophilia part in TV, I want to get into something that actually kind of hits home for me, and I'm sure a lot of you at home, and that is sports entertainment in the United States. Now, the quality of sports entertainment, in my opinion, has been going down my entire lifetime. Whether you're talking about a sport like football, where it seems like nowadays you are watching 15 to 20 minutes of just penalties being called, constant reviews, not having any good calls on the field, and seemingly rigging of some games in order to get certain teams into playoffs. And that's been happening for years. And whether you're talking about any of those aspects or the fact that we seem to have lost the game that our parents grew up with, which was the hard hitting, the absolute viciousness of what football is supposed to be. You can come at it from many different ways. You can also talk about a sport like basketball, which has been extremely commercialized. In my opinion, I was never a huge basketball fan, but from what I did used to like when I watched NBA games was very competitive defense and offense played games. And now it's kind of just a shootout every single game. Teams are shooting tons of threes. It's not extremely watchable. It's not a very physical game anymore, unfortunately. And with that, in my opinion, the watchability of the game from the fan perspective is just dropping even more. And when you go to my favorite sport of baseball and you talk about the commercialization of that as well, whether you're talking about rule changes that have come in the past, talk about things like the pitch clock, the DH rule going throughout the league and not just in the American League, or whether you're talking about the different commercialization aspects of the sport, trying to put different baseballs in so that we get more home runs instead of just allowing the competitors to compete like they have for years in past. And you could talk about all of these different aspects, the way that the new commissioner is going about things, the constant fighting between labor when it seems like these people are not satisfied, these people being people in the as a part of the major leagues are not satisfied being paid millions of dollars and they need to be paid more millions of dollars, kind of separating them from us regular people. Whatever aspect you want to come from it, all in all, the sport of baseball is becoming, in my opinion, very commercialized and very hard to watch. Now, I'm going to dial in here on baseball. I'm not as privy, although I do still watch some football. I don't watch any basketball. I'm not going to act like I know anything about hockey because I don't. I love watching the games, but I don't really know any of the behind the scenes stuff. I'm going to focus on baseball here because this is the one sport I genuinely pay attention to behind the scenes. I love the sport. I still coach. As I mentioned earlier, we got my team of 12U boys. So it's very important to me to kind of speak out against what I do not like that's in the game today. And what I really don't like is the aspect from the fan perspective of being able to have access to watching games. When I was a kid growing up, you wanted to watch the Yankees, you go on Yes Network. If the game wasn't on Yes Network, you were going to go find it on either ESPN, you were going to go find it on Fox, you're going to go find it on NBC. It was on one of the major networks. You If you couldn't find it on Yes, you were finding it over there. Now, things have become so separated because of the streaming networks that, and now on top of that, we also have a fight between, specifically for the Yankees, between Yes Network and Comcast, which is a cable provider, all leading to the fact that if you're a fan of a team like the Yankees or a team of anybody else around the country, you need to be a subscriber of 5 to 7 different streaming apps in order to watch every single game of the year. And it's now getting to the point that you need to spend so much more money than you would have otherwise if you just had a cable provider providing the games. It's not worth the average fan's time. And not only that, I kind of want to talk about the perspective of this as well. When you're talking about the older generations, the people who may not be as internet literate, I'll say, not as efficient online, or maybe just don't feel like putting in that much effort. If the game is not on an accessible channel, they're just not going to watch it. And to me, it is leading into one of the most frustrating eras of baseball, in my opinion. And I think it kind of goes sports wide again. The commercialization aspect is massive, on top of the fact that really it is hard to access. Now, with it being hard to access, that to me, that's just the worst aspect, only because even if I wanted to watch, there's a lot of times that I just can't. I'm not going to subscribe to Peacock, ESPN, Amazon Prime, Yes Network, right? I can't subscribe to all these platforms. You're talking about $20 pretty much minimum for every single one of these platforms every month. And with additional levels to get rid of advertisements, I just can't justify it. You're talking about if you wanted to watch every single Yankees game, for example, you're talking about paying probably somewhere in about the $100 to $125 a month range for all the different subscriptions that you needed in order to watch all the games. And this is not even talking about the blackouts part. So if you are not privy to information of Major League Baseball, maybe you don't even care about Major League Baseball, I hope you listen to this part. There is an app called MLB TV. If you are a T-Mobile subscriber, you get it for free. It's not an advertisement for T-Mobile because T-Mobile sucks. I'm just saying it's a part of the package. If you don't, this subscription costs about $30 per month, or you could pay, I believe the yearly is something like $150 or $200. And you can get all the games streamed for your particular team, or you can get it for all teams allowed. I think there's a price difference. I think it's $20 for one team and then $30 for all major league teams. Now, here's the problem. If there is a game that is in your local network, which now is not even a thing, because again, pretty much as a whole, cable providers are not providing these games. If it's out of your, or if I apologize, if it's in your network, if you're in the wrong state, for us, if you're in New Jersey, New York, or Connecticut, you are not allowed to watch the Yankees if it's a home game. So you'll be paying $30 a month for a different subscription and not even be able to watch all the games, which is the kind of alleged benefit of being a subscriber to MLB TV. The only benefit really would be if you enjoy watching a team that is out of your market area. Let's say you live in New York, New Jersey, and you're a fan of the Boston Red Sox and you subscribe. You can watch every single game that you want, except for when they come home here to play the Yankees. That's kind of ridiculous to me. And it really does kind of add to the really unwatchable part of sports today. Again, I'm only privy to the baseball part. I can only imagine that certain aspects of what I just brought up are very similar in sports like hockey, football, and basketball, probably other sports as well. Talk about golf or whatever you want to talk about. I'm sure that the amount of money that you need to pay to these streaming providers is really astronomical compared to what it used to be. And realistically, the product on the field isn't any better. It might even be worse. Um, and I think it kind of leads into that argument that as a whole, the entertainment industry in the United States is kind of just faltering a little bit. Now, the last thing that I kind of want to talk about today is I'll talk about TV shows, talk about sports, live sports, stuff like that. Let's talk about movies. Why not, right? The I would say at this point, quintessential movie provider, a movie maker in the United States has to be Disney. Not only someone who's tied to sports with their purchasing of ESPN Plus and their providing of that, but they provide a lot of different movies. They brought up a lot of different industry standards when it comes to movie production. Whether you're talking about I apologize, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Fox, all of these different things are under now that Disney umbrella. And them providing this and essentially overseeing all of this, first of all, you see massive budget increases that don't necessarily lead into better content. And what they've resorted to in most cases is just endless remakes. It's kind of gets to be a little bit ridiculous when you talk about the stage that the Marvel universe, which I never really was a super big fan of. I like the Avengers to a certain degree, but the all the different spin-offs and trying to understand which different directions, I never really got into that. Whether you're talking about that or you're talking about all the Star Wars stuff that they did, where I'm sorry, but Star Wars is a classic. And even, for people my age, we had the original trilogy, which like people like my parents and even older generations were absolute fans of. And then they saw the follow-up trilogy that was supposed to actually be a prequel to the original trilogy, and they kind of thought it was horrendous that they being Lucasfilm actually went back and did that. And now not only that, we could talk about those first 6 movies. They've made countless. I can't even name how many spin-offs, whether you talk about The Mandalorian or all the Drone Wars series. I don't even know the names, so don't come at me if I'm getting this wrong. My whole point being is that they kind of run out of original ideas. I'm talking about remaking every single one of the Disney princess movies and drilling it into oblivion. Beating the dead horse is not a good enough term because they've beaten it past death, past mutilation. It is just they're massacring the original idea, in my opinion, of what Disney was meant to be. Really rare do you see a Disney movie coming out with original IP, and it's unfortunate to watch because again, they are probably the quintessential movie provider in the United States at this time. And what it's become now, you're talking about like something like a live action remake of The Lion King. And in my opinion, why? The Lion King, I remember back watching the original Lion King movie countless number of times. Watching something like Finding Nemo, countless number of times. Something like Shrek, innumerable the amount of times that I watched all of these movies. It is because it was original thought and fantastically well made in the first place. Now you're going to go remake these movies, not only remake or make sequels or something like that, but literally just go back and remake them with what they call live action. I just can't comprehend why this could be necessary. And this to me is taking away quite a bit of the value of a production company as sizable as Disney. And then the other thing that people generally speaking, I would say don't talk about as much, but is definitely something to be talked about is the really unnecessary part of a lot of these live actions, which is changing the original race of written in characters in order to fit some sort of narrative, whether you're talking about changing the race, changing the sexual orientation, combination of the two there, or changing something else that's completely fundamental to whatever character they're talking about. For example, we talk about the most recent Snow White movie and turning it into someone who does not resemble the original Snow White, I'm sorry, in any way, shape, or form. And not only that, what I found to be funny, I didn't go watch this so you can confirm if I'm correct or not. I showed that the evil character in Snow White, which I don't even remember because I don't think I watched Snow White since I was about 4 or 5 years old. But the evil character in the new live action remake of Snow White is actually more beautiful of a person than Snow White herself. And the whole point of the movie is, if I could be wrong here, but from my understanding, the whole point of the movie is that the evil person in the movie is upset that Snow White is as beautiful as she is, and that is why she's condemned to sleep. And she has the whole 7 dwarves and all of this. So my whole point in saying all this is that the overall production quality and the originality of the ideas coming out of the movie making industry are poor to say the least. There really hasn't been many films that I've gone out to see on purpose in movie theaters recently, unless the film was something about like a real event, a nonfiction event. Think about something like Oppenheimer, which not to say that that is completely factually based, but somewhat based or pretty wholly based in factual events. That's the only type of movie realistically that's getting my brain to tell me that I want to go to the movies. It's never really some sort of fiction. It's never any sort of, romantic comedy or anything like that, because generally speaking, the ideas are so played out and really, again, the originality is just non-existent. And as we kind of wrap this up, you talk about whether you're talking about sports, you're talking about TV shows, you're talking about movies, kind of all three of them, in my opinion, are heading down a dark path. And that dark path is really seeking of profit and throwing out the window any sort of creativity, not really trying to include original ideas, and not really trying to think outside of the box for fear of losing money. And at the end of the day, when you're investing into something like a movie, you're investing a lot of money into something like a sports franchise, or investing the money in order to get that sports franchise produced and filmed. That's the risk. And being as low risk as all of these different types of productions are right now, and kind of only going with the surefire bets of what's hot right now, multiculturalism and playing to the crowd of the LGBT community. No offense to you if you're a part of that group, but for the rest of the people that make up the majority of human beings, generally speaking, across the planet, kind of cheapens what the human emotion goes through. And it's unfortunate. To me, it's unfortunate because as we look back, you look at the turn of the century, and I'm talking about the last century, talking about the 19th into the 20th century and the dominance of American culture. And where did that come from? Well, a lot of it came from the ideas that we were espousing to the rest of the world, whether you're talking about the idea of flight, telephones, electricity being spread out, creation of movies, radio, TV shows, live sports. All of these things were mass exports of our country that gave our country its worth. Our culture was emanating from every single one of these aspects. And now the quality has dropped so significantly that I think that it is definitely to be noted that we're losing something here. We're losing something pretty spectacular to our makeup as a country. And I think it's pretty important for us to kind of notice this. And I think kind of will the change back to something that is creative again. I point back again, I'll look back on the sports thing here because it's what I'm most connected to personally. If we can't get back to what made something like baseball amazing, America's pastime, we're going to start timing it and we're going to start limiting it. We're going to start throwing ideas out there like something like a golden at bat, which I didn't even talk about today, but essentially, if you're a baseball fan, talking about we're just going to let someone like Aaron Judge go and take a random at bat in the ninth inning because we're down by one. You're going to start taking that original idea of building a lineup, building a roster, creating the best possible team in order to lead yourself to a championship. And you're going to cheapen it with something like that, or you're going to start timing a game that is a timeless game. I'm sorry, but you are completely missing the point of what, in my opinion, baseball was beautiful at. And that is taking away that aspect of timed sport like we have with basketball, football, hockey, and allowing the beautiful aspects of the game to kind of flourish on their own. Whether you're talking about a pitcher who takes over the game and doesn't allow a run, whether you're talking about a lineup that just does not stop hitting from top to bottom like the Yankees did this weekend, whatever it might be, that is your selling point. And getting away from those aspects in order to cheapen it, in order to, again, commercialize it and allow outside market interests impact your thinking rather than thinking about your actual customer who exists already, I think that we are taking away from the exportable value of our country. I want you all to think about, what kind of different aspects of our culture, especially in terms of our media and our entertainment industry as a whole, what kind of aspects are missing? What kind of aspects do you wish still existed from either when you were a child, when you were a younger adult? And is there a way for us to get this back? What exactly are we looking to bring back? And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts because to me, in order to get back to some semblance of exporting some really great cultural pieces from the United States and getting them out to the world and espousing our ideas, to me, you need to get back to number one, originality. Number two, get rid of the commercialization. Unfortunately, you might see a little bit of loss of revenue there, but the whole point is that it's not just about the money at the end of the day. Let's think about this one aspect of sports. Generally speaking, someone who owns a sports franchise, those owners are not just owners of the sports franchise. That's not the only way that they make money. They made their money in something like oil, something like making entertainment, something like running a massive business, massive corporation, and this is their fun money, right? Generally speaking, that person's not expecting a massive profit from their sports team. Let's get back to that thinking. Let's get back to the thinking that maybe there's something else out there other than purely thinking of just profit. And maybe we're thinking about, can I still field the best possible team? And maybe I have to, you know, eat shit in some way, shape, or form in order to get there. And I mean that aspect across the board. You can be talking about TV shows where people are going and taking a risk with an idea that something like Impractical Jokers really put out there, where when they started their show, there was nothing like that. And now there's entire YouTube brands that are built off of the ideas that originally started with Impractical Jokers. Now, again, it's unfortunate to see what happened, extremely unfortunate, and really sad to see what happened to the victims here with the victims of the hosts, the alleged victims of the hosts of Impractical Jokers. But that being said, what they put out, that culture output from the original show, cannot go left unsaid, in my opinion. Such a great aspect of the American culture is going to be lost with the loss of this show. And to be honest, I think it stems even into the movie making industry where so many risks are not being taken in order to try to save the bottom dollar and save the bottom line at the end of the day and make sure that, well, all losses are cut. And to me, when you're talking about something like culture and you're talking about something that the people of America and really people around the world can look up to, we're not doing it the right way. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope that you all found something to enjoy about this show. And I really hope that you disagree on me with something. And if you do, get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. Again, we are quite close to 100 subscribers here on YouTube. Make sure to go like it up, subscribe away. And if you are listening on an audio platform, I highly encourage you to leave us a rating, leave us a review. And if you do, there's a good chance someone else is going to find the show that's just like you and you'll bring them right up aboard. So I'm Sal with We The Patriots Podcast and hope to catch you next week.
I wish I were the fucking state. I want to be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.